Kaboom! Texas Longhorns pick up another big-time commit. This one from Tyanthony Smith, the linebacker out of Jasper, 6'1", 205, 79-inch wingspan. He fits that mold of an SEC linebacker. He can play in the middle. He can play outside. I tell you what, CJ Vogel here alongside me. I'm Bobby Burton. CJ, your thoughts on Tyanthony Smith and what you think he brings to the table as a player for the Longhorns?
No, this is a big one, Bobby. You know, in a cycle where a linebacker really wasn't a big priority, you go out and you land one of the best in the state. This is a big recruitment. I was a big fan of Tyanthony Smith dating back to the 707 circuit. That's really the first time I got to see him live and in person. And it really jumps out how he plays defense. The way that he approaches the pass game is very much like a safety or a defensive back. And I think that's very encouraging. You know, he has the eyes and the instincts of a safety that's back deep. And so when you watch him on film especially, that's where it translates. You know, he reads the eyes. And when you watch his huddle, there's a few plays where you see the pass, up in the air, and he reads it like you would see Jalen Ford. And I think that is very encouraging. I'm sure you've seen the tape as well, Bobby. You mentioned a few things you wanted to mention. Let's hear them.
Yeah, no, I think that there's – look, you can clearly see on film he's got a nose for the football. And
right.
when he gets there, he knows how to bring people down. That's going to be incredibly important at the next level, especially in the SEC where, they don't just have one running back. They have a couple. They don't just have one wide receiver. They have a couple. And everything's a hard played game, right? And so Texas needs more of those types of guys. And Smith fills that void. The thing that I would say based on my, what I've heard about him from behind the scenes is this is a guy that is a absolute culture fit and characteristic fit. A lot of what I've heard about him is this guy could be a future team captain. That's sort of, I don't know how to explain it other than, I guess, intangibles, right, is probably the right word. That's how a lot of people see him and what's going on with him. I feel like the interesting part of it, and you mentioned this, Texas only taking one linebacker in this class. When Texas found out that Smith was indeed going to visit, they canceled another linebacker prospect from coming in for an official visit. That's how highly this staff thinks of him as a recruit and should probably tell fans exactly what they think of him. What about his recruitment in general? This was a Texas A&M battle. A lot of people thought he was favoring Texas, but he ended up committing to A&M early along with some other Southeast Texas kids like Weston Davis and Draylon Miller, who have all now also peeled off of their Texas A&M commitment as well.
Yeah, no, Texas was always kind of in that top group for him, dating back to the beginning of the calendar year. What kind of got interesting is teams like Oklahoma prioritized him. Texas A&M clearly earned the verbal commitment previously. USC was in the mix as well. These are some schools, some out-of-state schools where he really, really, thought highly of them. There was a time early in the spring where communication, wasn't necessarily where I think he liked it to be. And he expressed that in a couple interviews whenever I chatted with him. But credit to the Texas staff, again, coming in late. And we've seen this time and time again. When the ball gets rolling and momentum is there for Texas, I mean, it's like an avalanche. And this is another instance of Texas flipping a linebacker late from Texas A&M. And we saw how well that played off last year with, Anthony Hill. So very, very important recruitment here. You touched on the wingspan, Bobby, and I kind of wanted to go back to that. How important do you see that, in terms of being able to shed blocks and bring down tacklers? Is that at the linebacker spot? Is that something that you covet there?
Yeah, you have to. That has to be a formula, especially now. You can be shorter. Your height doesn't necessarily matter as long as you can see through the backfield. The problem is if you don't have the long arms and the strong arms, you're not getting off of those big monster blocks.
Right.
Kyle Flood, you can say what you want, but he and Steve Sarkisian have the blueprint of what the SEC is on offensive line, right? So they also have the blueprint of what defeats that or what they need to counteract it, right? They know you need that from a linebacker perspective. And so I think that's really, really interesting. I do want to add this about his recruitment, and not everybody knows this, but I was told that both LSU and Florida in the last 2 weeks came sniffing around a little bit after
Really?
they heard that he was going to kind of open it up or was thinking about it, just thinking about it.
Right.
So it wasn't just US. I mean, it was USC and Oklahoma, to your point, CJ, but this is much more than a regional recruitment.
Yeah.
He's not, I know he's ranked as a 3-star by some folks, et cetera. This wasn't the typical 3-star regional recruitment. This was more that mid 4-star, everybody wanted him kind of thing that I think is so important. All right, look, Texas is really having a flurry of commitments right now. Tyanthony Smith now committing to Texas. The defensive class is rounding into shape. The offensive class is done. I shouldn't say the defensive class is rounding into shape. The defensive class is what it is. I just feel like Texas right now, CJ, is in a kind of the catbird seat as it relates to recruiting. When you can handpick, okay, we only want one linebacker. It seemed like they went after just two linebackers truly in state this year. Justin Williams out of Oak Ridge that chose Georgia, and Tyanthony Smith, who was previously committed to A&M. I know it's not to the point where they're selecting like they once were under Mac Brown in the aughts, but it sure seems like Texas is getting to that place where maybe we're going to see a little bit more of that as we go forward.
Seeing the product on the field that you're pitching to recruits goes a long way. And I think that certainly helps in this recruitment as well. Say, hey, we have on field right now an All-American freshman linebacker, and we have a 2-time All-American right next to Jalen Ford. Both of them figured to be on the path to the NFL. Why would you not want to come in and play in this defense with a great defensive line in front of you that will help set up not only, for you to blitz the quarterback, but to stop and plug run holes? Everything's lined up right now for Texas to pitch to recruits a perfect fit right away. And obviously, like you said, the culture fit is there. And it also helps whenever you see guys, walking out to midfield for the coin toss in high school, because that translates. Winners win. And that was something I always like to see Texas do dating back to the 2022 cycle. There was 12 state champions that Texas recruited in that class. And that translates a long way. With Tyanthony Smith especially, this is a guy who gets it, in terms of what it takes to win on the field, what it takes to be a good locker room guy. And when you see that, nationwide, it makes things so easy for the coaching staff to say, this is a guy I want to target. I want to go out and get into my class and eventually into my program.
Yeah, I think that talking to his high school coach is so high on him.
Yeah,
it's just for the reasons you're talking about. I mean, you can kind of tell when a coach is overt about just how well and how good they think a young person is and how they're going to fit. Tyanthony Smith, one of those guys. Big day for the Longhorns overall, of course. Tyanthony Smith commits to Texas, CJ, and yet another blue chipper that the Longhorns corral. And look, we can talk about it until we're blue in the face, but the Texas recruiting train rolls on. All right, that's going to do it for today. CJ Vogel, thank you so much for joining us. I'm Bobby Burton, and before we let you go, Tyanthony Smith, hook 'em, bud. Congratulations.
Congrats, Tyanthony.